Recently, 4 years ago, after the Wilderness Congress in Alaska, we decided that wilderness was a key component and a missing component of our overall protected area system. So during in Alaska, through the initiative of the Wild Foundation and some private landowners in northern Mexico, by the power of authority that I have as National Commissioner for Protected Areas, and that future commissioners would have, we designated a wilderness area adjoining the Big Bend National Park in the U.S. on the Mexico side, and what we're working on now is on creating a legal and binding framework for wilderness so that future chiefs of the protected areas in Mexico can and should use the wilderness in their conservation strategies. We're currently working on establishing a joint management for the region around the Big Bend, which on the Mexico side now includes 4 protected areas. First there was El Cañón de Santa Elena in the state of Chihuahua, and then Maderas del Carmen in the state of Coahuila, and in the middle there was a huge piece in the municipality of Ocampo in the state of Coahuila. That was designated by President Calderon on 5 June on World Environment Day this year. So now we have a continuum across the border, and just a couple weeks ago the President also designated Rio Bravo, which we call Rio Grande for the U.S., as a national monument. So now we have the whole region with designations. This is sort of to follow on this vision of a binational park. There are still a number of things that need to be resolved. For now, we're going to concentrate on the ecosystem connectivity and having joint management criteria. We've worked collaboratively for many years. There's a well-known group of the Diablos, which are people who put out fires, and they're Mexicans who go over and put out fires on the U.S. side. So that's been very nice. Of course, after 9/11, 9/11, the problems of crossing over, which had become sort of like customary, was ceased completely. So eventually we also want to establish a little bit more connectivity in the sense of being able to cross. That's of course something that's going to happen eventually, we hope, but it's not something that we should worry too much about right now, because if we focus on that, we might not get the other part, which in a way is more important. Of course, connectivity would be beneficial, both in terms of the relationships between the two countries and even in terms of security, because when this was happening, there was a presence, for example, in a small town of Boquillas, and there was a presence, a continuous presence, and that made for a good environment, even safety-wise. So we're hoping to recuperate that good environment, and we understand the reasons why it had to be stopped, but we think there's good possibilities. But we're going to start with ecological connectivity, and then maybe go into other types of things. For us, it's like a binational park initiative. Although we like and we respect very much the concept of peace parks, we believe that a peace park is not something that's understood quite in the same way by the Mexican people, by the Mexican nation. So we were probably going to be speaking about just a binational protected area network, or a binational park, or a park of Concordia, or a park of friendship, or a park some way that reflects more the culture of the Mexican culture. It's gonna be very nice, and we're hoping to have something early next year as a first umbrella agreement, and then many other things are going to happen under it. And in reality, it's just giving a more formal backing to things that people on the ground have been doing for years. We recognize also a lot of differences because on the U.S. side, basically all the land is either federal or state owned. There's a small piece of land there that's privately owned. But on the Mexico side, basically it's exactly the opposite. All the land is private. Protected areas are designated because our Constitution allows us to designate over any type of property, and we have to incorporate the landowners into the scheme. So Mexico's conservation is basically private lands conservation, with the government acting as a facilitator and giving incentives. And also there's rules that have to be followed, it's not voluntary. It's mandatory, but we try to help, and for example, to us it's very good that people, private landowners like Cemex, which is a company, have devoted their land just to restoring wilderness and restoring wildlife. But there's other people who might want to still have some cattle on their land, and as long as the ecosystem is respected, we are not going to force them.
So is that ejido land there?
Yeah, it's ejido land, but it's also private landowners.
Okay.
So although we will provide incentives to hopefully start reducing the number of cattle in the region and even eliminating them from many parts and substituting them with wildlife. If there's ranchers that want to keep on their cattle activities, they can do them, and we will provide incentives so that they can maybe reduce stocking rates to improve the range, and so that the cattle, although it's not the ideal, they are substituting the grazing impact and the grazing, maybe more than impact, the grazing pressure that's natural to the grasslands, to the short grass prairies of the Chihuahuan Desert. But what I can tell you is that the original intent of designating 12,000 hectares of wilderness was increased to 23,000 hectares. So maybe that's part of the reason. But there's potential to get to maybe 200 or 300,000 hectares of wilderness in the region, which is what we're shooting for. Because I mean, 23,000 hectares is nice, but it's not enough for wilderness.
But they haven't finalized that acquisition?
No, I wouldn't know. But they have now designated, because I signed the certificate, so I know. They have designated a 23,000 hectare canyon. Wonderful, marvelous piece of land, really, really beautiful, as the first wilderness in Latin America.